Hi, Lori. I'm all excited to be talking to MIRICRIS again.
Ah,
You're cooking up a storm. Maybe we'll cook up a storm today with MIRICRIS.
yes, I'm making I'm originally from California, so and I live in France, but I am making Mexican food for about 12 friends who don't really know Mexican food.
Wow.
And so it's my contribution culturally. It's my
Is it very
roots.
different from Spanish food?
Very, absolutely, day and night.
Hmm.
And yeah, when I grew up, because coming living in California, I grew up eating tortillas, not
Hmm.
not pan like in France, not bread like a baguette. So I love this food, and I sourced it, which is really amazing that I even found a place that had high quality ingredients here. So very excited.
Congratulations. Have fun.
Thank you.
So let's call in. Let's talk with MIRICRIS. I was really wanting to focus personally on the fact that the world is in such turmoil and how empowering can we be to ourselves and other people. So I thought they would probably have some maybe spiritual DNA gimmicks for us or something. Let's
Ah,
find out.
that's beautiful.
So we're calling in, we're inviting you, Mira Chris, to come speak with us and to the wonderful people at home. Oh, we are here. We have been looking forward to this communication. We haven't spoken for a time. So much is going on your planet, so much. And we are paying a great deal of attention to it. Mm. And you have questions. One of your questions, we can perceive it in this one. One of the questions is, will humanity rise above the kind of deception that is reigning all around your world? You understand that there are communities of control dotted carefully around the earth. You understand that? So when you speak of a war is a wonderful way for them to make money and to create business at a certain abysmal level. Whether or not you feel that humanity is evolving is interesting because those who are caught under the wheels of that kind of ambition will not evolve. And we'll speak of it this way, which is your cellular structure when you're determined and you're pushing on protecting yourselves or this or that is very often confined. It holds itself in a defensive pattern. You understand that? And when this one was asking about conscious evolution, we say to you that your DNA is and your cellular structures have a potential for attuning to a much higher consciousness, which means it would release itself consciously from the grips of being untrusting and of being frightened to a point of self-defense and so on. It can lift humanity's, by choice, can lift humanity's mind and intentions above a reactive self. You understand this? Now, when you're speaking about wars and the turbulence on your planet, we understand that, but it's not going to take a few cellular shifts in order to stop that because you look at the turbulence, there are many levels of force coming up through the individuals, through the society that is engaging in a war. But we say indeed that the option to choose a higher resolve is coming through many individuals, and it will grow massively over the next, perhaps we'd say 100 years. And
Mm.
you'll find solutions being actually heart filling so for some very difficult problems on your planet. At this point, you're in transition.
Mm. Hmm. Yeah, that's what it feels like. You know, I mean, I believe we're in an evolution. I mean, I believe we are evolving. Many people are, not to everybody, but it is a hard, it is a hard road. You know, you
It's
feel,
very painful. And for some people, they are out of control in terms of the consciousness of choosing evolution. They have no interest in that. They're interested in defeat, you see.
mhm,
And their cellular structure is built for that. They
mhm,
often win the battles that they're in. So you see
mm.
the compromise that has to be made between that part of a person's cellular structure and the part that's raising up to be what would you call it, a peace-oriented being.
MIRICRIS, you said that the evolution, I forget how you just phrased it. You said it will take about 100 years. Can you
Yes.
can you explain in more detail what that looks like exactly?
Well, we already spoke a bit about how your cellular structure is actually aligned for this, and yet it's going to take activation by desire, by reaching, by dreaming, by wanting it, by a certain proportion of your society before it will actually push through. Only a few people, which is what's going on right now. You have people working very hard, diligently on conscious evolution, but they're in a very, very small, they're in small gatherings in parts of the world. You understand that? And they
Right,
need to be non-defensive and not intense, subversive, and what you would call uptight. They cannot be that way. They have to flow through it. And so you'll see that you need a great proportion of society to move the entire species. And it's
right.
going to take a while to improve that level.
I think I was asking, what does it look like when we finally get there in 100 years? Can you?
Oh my, that's a different question entirely.
Yeah.
It looks like a great deal. Oh, your planet, within 100 years, your planet will have changed its appearance. It'll have a facelift. There are a number of phases of destruction going to change and alter the external appearance of Earth. And we're saying that in 100 years, you'll find an even, by 100 years from now, perhaps not totally, but close, you'll find an evening out of the what would we call it? The scars, the lumps and bumps that are recorded on your planet. There will be much more softening of points. There'll be much more a rising of possibilities in the way things are built, the way there's a nurturing aspect of the way things will be built by then. You'll notice it's just very different. There's a soothing force all along on the planet. And we say that there are some mountain systems will have been destroyed, some will be fine. But so it's not just that the earth is flattened or it's not. It's that you'll see in within 100 years, you'll see areas being apparently soothed, having brought themselves to a kind of a peace, which begins as a dishevelment, but by choice becomes a soothing completion of certain areas. And there will be a tremendous change in how cities have gathered themselves. It'll be a huge change. And you'll
Mm,
find it'll be much more peaceful from city to city. The comparisons and the competitions are minimal. There won't be the same. This is an excruciating problem all over your planet right now, that money is one of the greatest problems. You know that. And we say that within 100 years, money will not be the great problem. The wealth will be the helping of people to become creative, to change the difficulties on the planet, and to build new things, to grow new things. And also, there's a sur surging of education becoming a more elegant approach to life than it is right now.
Mm,
So there are a number of different priorities, different uh, the feelings that people trust and know will be very different then than they are
mm,
now. Many people are very much more trusting when they think they've got enough money.
mhm,
And actually, that isn't exactly what trust means, as you well know, that, that they have to trust themselves and trust one another to nurture themselves and to trust their countries to think of the higher good. And that is not what's going on right now. The
mhm.
dissension is much greater and much more vicious.
So in that 100 years, you said basically the planet doesn't look like how it looks now. Does that mean that there's
It
rising?
doesn't.
Does that mean that the waters are rising in the oceans and they encompass land mass?
Just one moment, I'll turn this off. Sorry.
I don't hear it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, no, I don't hear it.
Yes, yes, there will be land masses rising, but there will also be, as obviously, some moving down under the seas. But there are other things going on. You've got a couple big wars coming up, and you probably already know that, Lori. But there's a couple of big wars coming up, and it will absolutely disassemble two parts of the world, meaning it takes down a mountainous region, flattens it. You understand? So the
Where,
topography changes
yeah,
radically.
where is
Uh,
this? Can you tell?
Here's over by is the Middle East, in the Middle
Mhm.
East, and this one will happen very soon. There's a mountain under there'll be great deal of digging and boring under the mountain, which is already happening over there. And there will be some explosions coming up, and the explosions are, what would you call it? Poison. The explosions are absolutely destroying the mountain of which we speak. And so, for example, if we fast forward 100 years, we would see that the surface of that part of the world is very different than it is today. It will take quite a while for broken, broken pieces of mountain, broken caves, and so on to heal and become a firm surface, but it is going to go that way. And it will take probably 50 years to heal from this next
Mhm.
number of sieges that are going on. Do you understand that?
Mhm.
And the healing is talking about the regrowing of the surfaces of these parts. And there is some damage to the ocean floor. And that also will take a while to rearrange because it changes tides and a great deal of mm, under a great deal of undersea activity. It makes some wild tides and some wild uh, swirls. It becomes really a bit vicious in and around the sea in certain parts, almost
Mm.
like the ocean is paying people back for
Mm.
hurting her land. Do you understand?
Yeah, so one thing I want to say, having lived in high fire dangers areas in California, um, what I always found really remarkable was the healing power and the rapid healing power of the earth, of the trees, the plants, the animals. Do you know when I lived in Topanga, there was no longer any deer or bear, black bear. They were wiped out by expeditions at the turn of the century, and before that by the conquistadors, etc. Well, do you know there are deer there now, and there are black bear there now?
Mhm.
And I just left Topanga about 10 years ago, and the black bear were not there yet, and they are now back. So I just
Isn't that
want,
wonderful?
yeah, I just want to say it's really amazing how fast the earth can repair itself.
And also the undersea repairs itself very fast.
Yeah.
But en
Mhm.
route, there's a great deal of destruction.
Sure. Sure. I mean, this is what we live with, basically. MIRICRIS, do you ever see a time, and you can, I don't know, 200 years, 500 years, maybe it's never possible, but is there ever a time when there is no more, um, there's no more war, there's no more conflict, there's no more bombings, there's no more people dying at the hands of other people in the name of country to country?
And often in the name of God, which is ironic, is it not?
Yeah. Do you ever see something like that?
Yes, we do. It's moving, it moves at a certain rate, meaning it penetrates the consciousness of humanity, but it's moving bit by bit. But you have some wonderful, wonderful warriors on this planet that are, this one was speaking about conscious evolution. There are some wonderful warriors of conscious evolution on the planet. And they're working with the cellular structure in people through their dedication, their emotions, their intentions, and so on. And that is bit by bit will gather more and more people. Many of the children of people who are still viciously warmongering, if you will, and many of the children of them, you'll notice, will start being born with a huge desire for peace, not just in peace and war, but in themselves and in their families. And you'll see it over and over as if they're magical beings, which in many ways they are.
Hmm.
And we call them magical beings as well because they have the courage to keep their sensitivity and their kindnesses protected from the onslaughts of ambition, if you will.
And how far out do we see this? Is it one period? Is it I want to go to this question I'm having, which is how far out is it? Are we 1,000 years out from when there's
No,
no
no,
war?
no, no, no. It'll probably be more like between 150, and this is only inaccurate. This cannot be accurate. You understand that.
Hmm.
But it's about 150 to 500. It's at that rate. That's a rate, if you will.
And is it just a period, or does it have a real long a period where there's no war?
I mean, after all this transformation,
Yeah, when
um,
we're out 150.
probably forever. You'll notice in other systems and other planetary structures, they're not doing war all the time. They
Hmm.
don't do war.
Yeah.
Why
Hmm.
don't they? Because they don't want to hurt each other. There's a deep sensitivity about the power of sensitivity. You
Yeah.
understand? They
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, they're much more advanced in in most ways, and this is one
but
of
you're
those
going to
ways.
find that some of them come and absolutely advance humans.
Yes.
And this is what's going to help. It's not going to totally escalate the change. It's going to nurture the change, you see.
Hmm.
You understand that because it has to go to a certain rate before it will stay in the DNA and the cellular structure of this species called humans.
Right. I mean, we know that hybrids are already here on Earth, and they do have a fundamental purpose in terms of evolution, and they have a completely different approach to life. And they
Mhm.
are helping on a lot of science-based projects as well. So, but it's being said that there's going to be other types of other planetary beings that are going to, in time, come onto Earth, and that's that should have a huge impact. as
Some of
well.
the ways humans are going to evolve,
Hmm.
when you bring in different species with a very different style, that talks about a different kind of interaction. You're aware of that? So we could go back to the humans and say they will move at thus and such rate, um, percentage wise. But with some of the ones that are being introduced, and they're not right away, some sneak in, and the hybrid word is very, very important. But they're setting up a different way of living as well, and that will take time. That's the way new civilizations begin, isn't it?
Hmm. Hmm.
So it's not a straight linear progress.
Chris, do you think part of the equation is that we're going to have less people on the planet?
Yes.
Can you, I don't want to pin you down to numbers, but it does help. Are we talking 50 million less? Are we talking 50 billion less?
One moment. We'll bring out our calculators here for you. It's very interesting because you'll find there are several. This makes me want to weep. There are several places coming up where many will die, and you could say a billion.
A
You
billion.
see. Mm.
Wow.
Not all at once, but it'll over a small period of time or a shortish period of time, you'll lose about a billion in population, which is actually, if you're thinking about pruning and
Yeah,
country work, it's a very comforting number. If you think about individuals, it's a really sad plight. You understand that? But it's essential for the earth to clear herself up.
exactly.
Not
Exactly.
because of the fact they can't have enough food. No, it's the poison of these vicious attitudes and so on that's keeping it toxic, disruptive. You see, you do you understand?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there has to be an emergence into accepting and redeveloping societies. And the emergence will include some beings from other planetary systems. But they won't
Interesting.
just save the day on humans
Yeah,
because humans have to evolve themselves. You
that's
understand?
yeah,
So
when other planetary beings have evolved. Yes, we're
yes,
one of the groups that have not so
yes.
much. I mean, we are, but it's slow. And by the way, Miracris, it's we currently, as of 2022, have 8 billion people on the planet. So if 1 billion, if we prune 1 billion, that's amazing.
It's actually a very good percentage. You understand that?
Yeah, and it needs it. I mean, I'm a big believer in this, that we're
But also,
completely,
people gain a great deal from a terribly destructive lifetime. You know that. We don't
yes.
want to stop them from getting the material that their cellular structure requires for either their past history being healed or a new
Hmm.
development coming up in them. So it's not a direct linear approach, but
Yeah.
we are saying conscious evolution amongst a very small group of humans is actually being worked out.
Yeah, and 100 years ago, there were 2 billion people. We have catapulted so fast in 100 years to 8 billion. We have quadrupled in 100 years. So I think this just really speaks volumes about us being a bit out of balance on this
A bit
planet.
out of balance. The other thing we want to say is within people, there is a very, very evolutionary drive to become of a higher frequency, to be extremely conscious over your own growth and so on, which we've already spoken of.
Hmm.
But we say that some of that's been negated or tamped down with the onslaught of people and the fights for resources
Hmm.
and the battles and the wars. So the actual unfoldment of humanity has been restricted and thwarted in many ways by that. You'll find that it pops open and many will be reaching for a much higher way of thinking, being, feeling,
Hmm.
even traveling, because they will leave the planet and go to wonderful places.
Mm.
So it's going to be quite a healing, even though it looks like a big destruction. The
Hmm.
biggest healing, as we say, is in the consciousness of those beings who maintain their life here and
Hmm.
work to understand, work to grow, work to glow, if you will.
Yeah. And I want to say for those of us who are here and have been working on consciousness, this is pretty amazing at this time if you think about it. I mean, I feel karmically we were placed here. We've chose, when I say we were placed, our souls chose to come here at this
And
time
you pass
to
the exam.
to help to help the continuing evolution as we evolve in our own consciousness. So yeah, it's just
But those who have a great deal of karma
mhm,
can be living a really difficult and seemingly unconscious life, but finding themselves becoming more and more conscious as they go through their strife. You understand, there's all these conundrums
mhm,
of what looks like this is actually this. It's
mhm,
very confusing just to observe it.
mhm. Yeah. Well, I know it's rough out there, but I am feeling quite hopeful, you know.
Well, we say that when you're, what is it, humble enough to not be sure and allow yourself to ask questions all the time, then you find yourself moving more swiftly through this evolutionary phase.
Hmm. And I think it's very strong right now. Right now, the energetics are really super strong
And that's
for.
partially because the whole world is in a state of trauma.
Hmm.
Trauma is an amazing tool for having.
Catapult.
Yes, it's tremendous.
Yeah,
So we're in agreement with you, Lori, and we say, yeah, don't rest on your laurels, any of you, because there's a lot
no.
to be done,
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
is from the inside out of a person. You understand that?
Hmm. Hmm. No, this is very beautiful. Thank you. You've given us a lot to think about, MIRICRIS, and thank you.
It's our pleasure. We say that's true. It is our pleasure because what we're discussing is a very hopeful step into a different aspect of the universe, and you will love it.
Yeah. And just a reminder to everybody out there listening, this is an intense time. We know what's going on in the world. We don't need to talk about it. Everybody knows what's happening. But take care of yourselves. And it's really meditation,
Mhm.
breathing, and coming into community is
And
really.
radiating yourself consciously, which will give you a buffer around you and it will lift other people. So go into your core and radiate consciously for the sake of evolution and your
Mhm.
planet and
Mhm.
peace.
Right. I again want to remind people just from a practical standpoint, you know, take care of yourself, breathe, make good food, exercise, breathe, and we'll get there together.
And
Find your,
center yourself
yeah,
always.
find your
If
community, find your tribe. It's very important. All right, Mayor Chris, anything else?
Of course, there are many, many, many levels, but not right now. There's nothing in particular that we want to push, except one more thing is that when we're speaking of the breathing and all that, is the core of people. They need to be able to address their own core, which and their higher self and their grounding, so it stabilizes their presence on the planet amidst all this, and they don't become victimized. You understand that? And they can pass that on as well.
Yeah, and two more things. Be sure to laugh and
Yes,
be sure to love.
and to sing.
Laugh, love, sing. I turn on Stephen Colbert right before I go to bed at night because I need to laugh out loud before I go to sleep. So that's my part of my sleep therapy right now.
He's good at that. He also has consciousness, even though he's a fighter.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All
And
right,
consciousness is very contagious for everyone to remember.
yeah.
Thank you, Lori.
All right, everybody. Blessings. Bisous, kisses.
Blessings.